Sonic, the heart of your system.
What's up everybody, my name's Andy and welcome back to Kit Guru. So are you a gamer that has to have the best specs to aid your dominating skills? Or are you a phone gamer? If you've replied yes to any of these, then this is the holy grail. The one phone to rule them all. This is the ASUS ROG Phone II. So first of all, there's far too much going on with this phone for me to cover every single bit of it in enough detail to do it justice. So I'll just be covering what I believe to be the main features and functions. And let me clear this up before moving on as well. This phone is purely targeted at phone gamers and pretty much nobody else. If you're in the market for an all-around jack of all trades smartphone that's aimed at a wide audience, then this is not the phone for you. This is a niche product, but if you want the absolute best gaming performance in your pocket, then keep watching. So we have the Elite edition of the ROG Phone II, and our specs are as follows. So it has the Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 64-bit octa-core CPU, which has been overclocked to 2.96 GHz. Now it also has the Adreno 640 GPU inside of it, and up to 12 GB of LPDDR4X RAM. Now it also has a 512 GB internal memory, and the internal storage can go up to 1 TB. Now the screen is a 6.59 inch FHD plus AMOLED 10-bit HDR display with 120 Hz refresh rate and a 1 millisecond response time on a phone. Now this does have dual rear cameras and one selfie front-facing camera, stereo speakers with dual NXP smart amplifiers, Bluetooth 5.0 support, NFC support for mobile pay, dual 4G SIM card slots, and an in-display fingerprint reader as well as face recognition. Now on the side there are two extra buttons which are actually AirTriggers, which is a bit crazy, more on that later. Dual surrounding vibration, 3.5mm headphone jack, and a whopping 6,000 mAh battery with quick charge and power delivery support. Now this battery is an absolute monster and exactly what you need for gaming on the go. Port-wise, you have two USB-C ports and another for ASUS accessories, so you can do so much with this phone. There is on-phone passive cooling as well as active cooling via the included Aero Active Cooler 2. So jumping over to the design, first of all I want to say that there's no IP rating. So as there are many ports on this phone, I imagine that's the main reason for the lack of it. But dust, dirt, water, anything like that could easily find their way into these nooks and crannies, so be careful to keep this phone out of the elements. Now personally, I see this phone sort of like a games console or a gaming laptop, that you're not really going to bring those out, outside in those elements anyway, so treat this the same way. The dimensions are 170.99mm by 77.6mm by 9.48mm, and it has a weight of 240 grams, so this is a weighty phone and it's pretty large. Now there are two designs available, the matte black and the black glare. Now as we have the Elite model, we have the gloss finish. So to get the matte black one, you have to get the most premium and expensive model, which we'll talk about later. Now our model is slippery to hold, and due to the size, it's not really a big issue because it's so large, you've kind of got to grip it anyway, if that makes sense. Now, I'd imagine the matte black wouldn't be as slippery, but I haven't tested that one out, so I can't confirm. So design-wise, this is clearly a Republic of Gamers product, but it doesn't really scream gamers as much as some of their other products, to me at least, but it still passes as a classy looking phone. But, when you look in detail, you can see this is a gaming phone. So buttons wise, you have the power button on the right hand side along with the volume rocker. Now this side also features the unique AirTriggers, which can give you an advantage in games, and this lets you assign buttons to games that let you do that. Now there's an in-display fingerprint reader, and this is really responsive. It's super quick to read your finger and get in there. I mean, I've set mine to my thumb and it's almost instantaneous unlock. Now on the base, we have a USB-C and a headphone jack. And on the left-hand side, we have the dual SIM tray, another USB port, and the ASUS port for the accessories. So as previously mentioned, this is a massive phone, and of course it has a massive screen. So it's got a 6.59-inch display with a 19.5 by 9 aspect ratio, and this has a resolution of 2340 by 1080, and it also has 10-bit HDR colors with over 1073.74 million colors. That's over 1 billion colors. And I must say, it actually looks great, especially whilst gaming or even consuming media. Now there is a small forehead and chin, but nothing too major because the screen is so large. Now the big selling point here, of course, is the 120 Hz 1 millisecond screen with a 49 millisecond touch latency. And it's made out of Gorilla Glass 6. So again, this is scratch resistant, but not scratch proof. There is a difference. So there's no denying that this display is absolutely excellent on this phone. And of course, 120 Hz, I still can't get over it. It's crazy. Now this is only usable on certain games, but again, we will see that soon. So even if you weren't gaming though, this is ideal for media consumption. And not just because the display is beautiful, but because, it's huge and the speakers really complement that. So software wise, the operating system here is Android Pie, but it also has ASUS's twist on it with the ROG UI. And this has custom icons, and I really like the look of this. It's quite sort of dark and gamery, and the performance is great. So apps launch instantly, and I've yet to have any hiccups whilst casually using this phone or actually trying to jump around really quick to see if it slows down. So overall, this seems great, and it seems really well optimized. So as always with ASUS, they have their own software available, which comes pre-installed. So the first one we'll look at is the ASUS Armoury Crate. Now this is a command control center that lets you browse and run games that are installed, including specific game profiles that you can change and settings of the games as well. So on the home screen, just press the app on the lower middle and this will launch it too. So here you can choose the X mode, and this increases CPU and GPU performance, and you can adjust fan speed here if you have the Aero Active Cooler 2 installed. So remaining battery life is also displayed, and you can quickly enable the X mode by coming down from the top of the phone with your finger, and there's a little sort of notification there that you can enable without having to launch Armoury Crate at all. So enabling X mode changes the phone's theme from orange to red, and it also turns the RGB on. So that's on the phone or the active cooler, whichever you have on or off. So via Armoury Crate, you can click featured at the top to display all 120 Hz games that are available on the Play Store, and games that support Twin View if you have their accessory, which is basically a dual monitor accessory, and also support for AirTriggers. So as I keep saying, the AirTriggers are like these little buttons on the side that sense when your fingers are over them, and they're kind of like the bumper triggers you would have on a controller. That's exactly what they're meant to be. So these games let you specify and change what these buttons do to give you an advantage. So the next software that's available is Game Genie, and this automatically runs when a game is launched, and this provides an overlaid toolbar to optimize performance, and it will turn off notifications, it will display game info, you can customize the triggers and even more whilst the game is running. So you just swipe in from the left to right and it will open it up there. Now these apps look and perform great, and I found it really plays nicely with the gaming aesthetic the phone is so eagerly wanting you to see there. So I found these apps very intuitive and easy to use, and once again I experienced no delays using these, and I like the tailored options that are designed with game priorities in mind. Now, the fact that all 120 Hz and other supported games are accessible via that software, I think that's great, because instead of having to Google, oh, okay, what 120 Hz games are available for me to play, or oh no, what game's going to support the AirTriggers, ASUS have done all that for you. Just go into the Armory crate and you can see everything there. So from me, at least, this gets a massive thumbs up. So performance and gaming wise, well, this is where the phone really shines. Of course it is, it's a gaming phone, but honestly, gaming is ridiculously immersive. The speakers are great and the screen really shows off just how, you know, phone gaming should be experienced. So I spent my time playing Call of Duty mainly, as well as Asphalt 9, Mortal Kombat and Dead Trigger 2, amongst others, and all of these ran without any issues at all, especially when set to max settings. And my Wi-Fi signal in the house isn't that great, but I didn't have any issues connecting to it, or I didn't really notice any delays via that either, so that's a good pro. So using the Game Genie showed me the temperatures and the frame rates that I was also getting, which was really nice because you could just swipe in from the left and there it goes. It tells you everything you need to know. So Mortal Kombat supports 120 Hz, which still blows my mind that this is in a phone, but it ran buttery smooth. And of course, in a fighting game like Mortal Kombat, you really need that high frame rate, and it just worked really well. Like I got so immersed into it, I felt like I was actually playing on a proper console. So colors were excellent and probably better than my own TV. That's probably why I enjoyed it so much. And I enjoyed, you know, every second of it. Now there is a cheeky point to make here. So there's another way around of giving yourself an extra advantage despite having a ridiculously powered phone. Now you can actually connect controllers to the phone. So ASUS do have their own controller, but I actually connected my Xbox One via Bluetooth and it worked brilliantly. So for Call of Duty, things like that, it was excellent. You just load up the game and away you go. I didn't really have to fiddle around or anything either. Now, the one thing I do wish was that the Aero Active Cooler 2 had a kickstand, because when using a controller, you know, your phone's just falling over. So you need to prop it up on something. So for me, I used a switch stand that I had kicking around, and that was great, but I just wish that cooler had a little kickstand for a desk or something, which leads me into cooling. So there is passive cooling on this phone on the back via the small vent, and basically it's just going to let heat dissipate through here. So it's a nice feature, but it's not really a massive thing. But the big thing is the active aero cooler. So this is the next option, and the one I'd probably say to use just all the time if you're going to be gaming intensively at least. Now this just slides on, it's very easy to use. You just pull it apart, it's got a little slide, clip it into the side, and away you go. So this weighs an extra 30 grams and the dimensions are 96 millimeters by 48.9 millimeters by 7.8 millimeters. Now this does also feature a 3.5 millimeter audio jack and another USB 3.1 Gen 1 Type-C port. So obviously with this extra USB-C port, you can charge it from the side rather than from the base. So if you're really in a pinch and you need to charge it whilst you're gaming or something like that, you can do. Now, of course, it does have ASUS Aura as well. So it has an RGB logo on the back, which can be customized. So camera-wise, you have 3 on this phone. So the main one is a Sony camera, is the IMX586, which is a 48 megapixel camera, and it has an aperture of f1.79. So this is great for low light and for bokeh, so for blurring that background out and getting an isolated subject. Now modes for this camera include auto, portrait, panorama, night, pro, and in pro you actually have raw fire support as well, which is nice, and you also have AI scene detection and even more. Now the second camera is a 13 megapixel. Now this is 125 degrees field of view, so it's an ultra wide, so it's nice to see. And the front facing camera is a 24 megapixel f2 with a 77.9 degrees field of view as well. It has 3-axis electronic image stabilization. You can time lapse, slow-mo at 1080p at 240 or 120 frames per second, or 720p at 480 frames per second. And the ability to take photos whilst recording video as well. So I think the camera options are good, but the wide angle isn't that great, but the other ones are actually quite good. And when you compare to, you know, mid-range to higher end phones, it's actually in line with those. So you are getting quite a good, set of cameras here, despite the fact that it's aimed at gaming and not really fully towards the photography side. But in my opinion, if you're going to do photography, buy a real camera. So price-wise, there are 3 options available. You have the Strix edition, and this has 8 GB of RAM with 128 GB of storage, and this comes in at £599 UK, which I actually think is a really good entry price point. Now the Elite edition is the one that we've tested out, which has 12 GB of RAM and 512 GB of storage, and that's £829.99 UK, so that's pushing it up a bit more. And finally, the Ultimate edition is the last one, which has 12 GB of RAM and a 1 TB internal storage for £949.99. So that's really quite pricey. So via the ASUS UK web store, you can buy these power crazy phones from just £599. So that's, I do really like that. And they do offer a up to 15% off student discount at the time of recording, at least. And I think that's brilliant. I really do. So yes, if you want double the RAM and more storage, you are going to fork out at least another £230 minimum. But, you'll have to weigh up whether or not you think it's worth it. Personally, if you're going to spend out on a pricey gaming phone, I'd say get the best you can so that you can future-proof yourself and the new games that will be coming out. But it's up to you. I still think the base model will actually perform quite well, but we haven't tested that one out. So in conclusion, if your main focus is gaming and you can deal with the sheer size and weight of this hefty phone, and you have enough cash burning a hole in your pocket to get the top spec models, then I don't think you'll be disappointed with the ROG Phone II. So like I said, I didn't touch on everything this has to offer, just tried to point out the main things. So as I mentioned before, this phone is not for everybody, but I do think there's a market for it. And personally, I loved it. I thought it was great. I had a really good time playing the games. I got so immersed into it, even watching YouTube on it or anything like that. Personally, I actually enjoyed the phone and I would own one. So that's something to say. But finally, let's look at the pros and the cons all together. So it has insane specs and performance in general, even under load. It has an active aero cooler, which comes included, which is nice. The ASUS software is brilliant. I really enjoyed using that. So out of the 3 they offer, the baseline model is actually quite a good price point. The screen and display is absolutely beautiful, and the fact that it has 120 Hz and it's OLED, that's amazing. It's got 10-bit HDR color, which is great for media consumption and gaming. It's got multiple USB-C ports and an impressive battery life with quick charge capabilities. So you can see the pros are pretty big here. But in cons, there's no kickstand on the aero cooler, which kind of bugged me a little bit, but you could buy one, but then it's something extra to lug around with you. The wide angle camera isn't that great. There's no IP rating, and the phone is pretty large, and the high spec models come at a very high price point. But when you look at other phones on the market, like Apple or Samsung, things like that, their latest flagships, they're all pretty much £1,000 too, and that is just crazy, to me at least. It comes from the days where you had Snake on your phone and that was it. £1,000 on a phone, you could buy a gaming laptop for that. However, I do understand the market for this phone, so if you are a hardcore gamer that loves phone gaming and you have enough money, then go for it, because this is a brilliant all-round phone, but especially for gaming. So if you've liked this video, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the subscribe and ring the notification bell. If you'd like to check out our merchandise, you can do so below. Check us out on Twitter and our website for daily tech news. So I've been Andy, this is Kit Guru. We'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.